And let's take a look at the defensive backs that are coming back in 2018 for Texas college football. Yeah. And specifically take a look at how they fared last year versus what we can expect in the upcoming year. I will tell you that on the whole, wasn't an awesome year for pass defense in Texas. There were basically three teams. There were three teams that were that were in the top 40 as far as pass S&P as measured by Football Outsiders Plus, or I'm sorry, Football Outsiders. TCU, Texas, and Texas A&M. They're all in the top 35. If you want to go with the top half, you can add in Houston. They were in the top half. They were 67th. Everyone else was below average.
Yeah.
It was not a great year for pass defense. And I would say that in a lot of respects, we are losing a number of the very, very best players, or secondary members that we had last year.
Yeah.
We're losing our Armani Watts. Me more. I love Armani Watts. I'm very sad he's gone. We're losing Davion Hall from Baylor, right? We are losing Ranthony Tejada. We're losing Nick Orr from TCU. We're losing basically Texas's entire secondary. Deshaun Elliott, Jason Hall, Holton Hill jumped early, Antoine Davis gone. Okay? A lot of these guys, a lot of the big-time playmakers for these defenses, Keyshawn McClain, the safety for North Texas, is gone. Yeah. So a lot of the big headliners are gone as well. And so we're left with a situation where we don't really know what to expect. Now, I will tell you that the top two, the stats I use to pull back the curtain completely, on Football Outsiders, they have two stats I think are particularly interesting to defensive backs. One is passing S&P plus. Basically, how well do teams pass against you? It's a fancy metric of showing that. The other one is defensive back Havoc. How many impact splash plays do you make with your defensive backs? Which I think is an easy way to kind of measure it. And essentially what you're doing is what percentage of passing plays do you make, and does a defensive back make a splash play, be it a pass deflection, be it an interception, something like a tackle for a loss if it's a pass, or a short, tackle for a short gain on a pass, things like that. Defensive back Havoc is another thing that I kind of kept an eye on this. And so, if you look at last year's numbers based on that, it is very clear that there were two secondaries that were much better than everyone else, Texas and TCU.
Yeah.
Those were the top two.
Not a huge shock there.
Those were the top two by a pretty considerable margin. This is, for me, I think they have to start near the top heading into 2017. Now, I will say, Texas gets wiped, basically. Yeah. They lose basically all of their secondary. The only guy that they're bringing back that has like a good amount of experience. I mean, the thing about secondaries is it's similar to defensive line, that they do cycle in a lot of guys.
Yeah.
But Chris Boyd is back. Devontae Davis got some run. Brandon Jones was here and there. P.J. Locke got some run as well. But as far as headliners are concerned, the guys that they're losing, they lose by far the most amount of guys.
Yeah.
Okay, TCU brings back more. They bring back Ridwan, and they bring back Nico Small and Jeff Gladney. But I think you can make a very I don't think it's even making an argument. I think it's actually true that their two best guys in that secondary, Nick Orr and Ranthony Tejada, are gone.
Yeah, right.
And so you kind of ask yourself, where does that leave everyone else? And so I ranked, in my opinion, the top six, top half, returning secondaries in 2018. Number 6, Texas Tech. Texas Tech was actually, their defensive backs on the Havoc scale, they're actually pretty good. They're okay. Their pass defense is going to stun you. It was not amazing. Mm-hmm. But they bring back everybody. They bring back the whole squad. Mm-hmm. Bring back the entire thing, so you can hope that whereas they made that step last year from awful to just below average,
right,
if they can make that step from below average to average or above average, then suddenly Texas Tech becomes one of the best secondaries in the state, because I think, again, the bar is so low. Number 5, I have Texas A&M. And I think the talent is there, but when you do lose guys, when you lose guys like Armani Watts, when you lose guys like Priest Willis, Donovan Wilson, Nick Harvey, you have to replace those guys. There are guys I really like. I love Charles Oliver from Fairfield. I love Larry Pryor. I've heard really good things about this Deshaun Capers-Smith, and he's flashed at times. But right now, because there is so much turnover, I can't put them any higher than 5th right now heading forward. Number 4, I've got UTSA. UTSA brings back 2 of their 5 guys from last year. Only 2 of their 5 defensive backs. But the guys are bringing back, they do lose Nate Gaines and Devron Davis, but they bring back Carl Austin, C.J. Levine. They do lose Austin Jupe as well. But if you look at, they were a pretty good. They were just below average last year, and with that experience, you wonder if they're going to be able to make that next step forward with the guys they have. Because again, a lot of these defenses secondaries got wiped. A lot of them. Number 3 for me, I have Texas. Again, I think the talent is there, no doubt about it. But I just think when you're losing so many of those big-time players, I mean, how critical is Holton Hill to what they did last year? Right? Just him.
Yeah.
If they had just lost him, there would be a huge
the Elliott turnovers alone, right? It's big deals.
Yeah, so from those big play perspectives, they're losing that. So I put them at number 3. Number 2, I'm going with Houston. Okay? They bring back half their secondary. But this is probably, admittedly, more of a how do I put this? This is more of a reputation play. When you have guys like Jeremy Winchester coming back to, and I think that Houston's tradition of putting out strong secondaries, I think, will carry them, and I think that's why I put them second as far as returning secondaries. And number 1 for me is still TCU. Even losing your 2 best players, I think that speaks to the depth that they've built there. Even losing Nick Orr and Anthony Tejada, when you bring back Ridwan Isahaku and Nico Small and Jeff Gladney, not to mention guys like Ennis Gaines, who got a little bit of run last year, for me, I think that they have to start the year as the best secondary in Texas going into 2018. I think a lot of that is reputation as well, right? This is the Gary Patterson bump.
Yep.
But I will say that from now, here we're March 12th. If I was projecting forward to the season, I think that if you were to count on one secondary to be pretty darn good in 2018, it would be TCU.
Now, the burning question: if you had to pick, who is a contender for the best defensive back in the state?
Yeah, that's
a little tricky because we lose some big headliners, right?
I think you could go with a guy like Chris Boyd, who really flashed whenever he was
Got to be more consistent, though. Obviously,
I think if you want to go, I think Brandon Jones. I mean, if you talk about blue chip prospect, if you're ready for a breakout year, it could be Brandon Jones. Jeremy Winchester at Houston, is another guy that I think you could give that nod to. In a lot of respects, though, I think that you're searching in the dark, because even guys like Nate Gaines, right, at UTSA, who is so critical to what they wanted to do, I think he would be in that mix, but he graduated as well. So for me, I would go with probably somebody on maybe on Texas. Yeah. If you want to go with Texas Tech, I mean, Joshawn Johnson did have a really nice year last year, but really, unless you want to go with a projection pick like a guy from Baylor, right? Like Grayland Arnold, okay? Unless you want to go with that, there's just not a lot of knowns. And so, I don't know. There's a few different places you could go, but right now I'd probably go with somebody from Texas or, maybe somebody from Texas A&M. Again, I'm very high on Charles Oliver. Right. Could be a guy like that. But I think that it's wide open as far as that's concerned, because almost all the guys ended up either graduating or jumping to the pros.